Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Fabulites. This is Angela with another edition of Notes on the News, where I read to you headlines from my news feed and share with you if I have any thoughts about them, my thoughts about the headlines, the stories, or the subject matter at large. But it's not news, it's just my notes on the news. I enjoy sometimes just skimming the headlines even when I don't have an opportunity to read the entire article, because it helps me to stay a little bit connected to what's going on out here in these streets, out here in the world. So, I'm Angela. The channel is Be Fabulous You. Welcome, welcome back. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And thank you so much for clicking on the video and sticking around to see how we get from opening to closing. Let us proceed. Fitness influencers, trainers, and models show us what's inside their fridges and reveal why you should always avoid fat-free foods and cheat days. I was curious about the article because, I have an interest in nutrition. So I wanted to see, who the people were that they featured. So it seemed like it was about 7 people, and they all appeared to be white. I didn't see any brown people or any black people in the mix. The advice seemed to be solid in terms of whole foods, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, raw foods. A lot of their eating habits seem to be sane and rational. So, but they couldn't find no black folks. I mean, it's not like they were like just top influences or influencers, and they could have found. But anyway, yeah. Africa's Weekend Pictures 19 through 25 January 2018. I love whenever, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it comes across my timeline every week, but whenever I see it, I really enjoy it. Because it is like just a picture. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but the picture with the caption is like it just says a lot to me. It's just the whole world of Africa, or just not the whole world, but it's just like exciting to me. Like, oh, this picture, that picture, this here. I think it was like about 8 or 10 pictures from various countries and various, some things were serious. Some, I can't even remember now what it was, but I always find it interesting to look at. That's coming off of BBC.co.uk. Casey Affleck pulls out of presenting Best Actress Oscar. I think because of someone has accused him of being a sexual predator or raping them or sexually harassing them or something. I don't even know. It's really difficult to keep track of, keep up with it. South Koreans conquer fear of dining alone. It's like if you dine alone, you're considered a social pariah, but it's becoming way more common. They don't want to be perceived as social pariahs, but it's becoming way more common. I remember when I first moved to New York, and like my cousin, she was like, oh my gosh, you go to a restaurant and eat alone, when we were in college and young. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess to her, it made me like a social pariah. To me, it made me like a person who was hungry and went to a restaurant to get something to eat. But these top male BBC News presenters are in talks to take a pay cut. So it's interesting to me that they're taking a pay cut because their women colleagues make less money than them. So I guess that the corporations feel that they can't raise the women up, they have to bring the men down, which I feel like that's like some divide and conquer. Like, that's pitting us against each other. That's like a zero-sum game type thing. Like, there's not enough for everybody to thrive and be well paid. If these women are going to be well paid, you're going to be less well paid. So I feel like it's a false setup, and I feel like it's some bull. That's how I feel. I don't know. I haven't run that type of business, but I feel like, some of these corporations do some slick stuff to try to like, oh, now that we got this wonderful tax break, we're giving everybody raises. That's what they're saying on the front end. Then on the back end, they're firing people and they're doing all this other crazy stuff. So I don't trust them. I don't know. South Korea hospital fire kills at least 37 in Myeong. A hospital fire, 37 made their transition so far, last we heard. So rest in peace for those people and their families and communities, and the other people who, were injured or are, have been affected. Love and healing. Love and healing, to you all and to all of us. China's 8-year-long smartphone growth comes to an end. 8 years of growth, that's pretty exciting for an industry. But these companies say we got the whole world to expand into. They were trying to expand into the American market, I read in the article, one of these companies. And it was, so we don't have any big Chinese companies in the American market. Although I think the iPhone is basically made and manufactured in China. Is that right? But this company was trying to get into America, but then there was some concern about like security. Like you're creating our phones and your government is spying on us, that type of security. Giulio Regeni murdered in Egypt over research, Italian prosecutor. So this was a graduate student who was doing research on the labor movement, and he was murdered. And I think that the public story that some people tried to advance was like he got kidnapped by a gang and then the gang members got shot, or it was some weird story. And the story that I believe makes sense based on my experience, I don't know the specifics in this situation, is that he was doing research on labor unions, and they not, throughout the world, these corporations are really opposed to people uniting and fighting. And the 1% really tries to keep, the rest of us 99% fighting with each other and focus on each other instead of focus on them. So they can focus on making more money while we, so it's sort of like when you're in unions, when you're organizing, when you're doing that type of work, when you're reporting on it, there's a lot of good to be said for it, for those of us who are in the 99%. And so I think that seems like credible that, some of these 1%ers are like, oh no, we not having, that. Facebook, Russia trolls created 129 event posts during 2016 election. And I heard some of these events, not in this article, but I had heard this a while ago, that some of these events, they'd be like the, Detroit march of black people who hate white people, and nobody shows up because it's created by somebody in in Russia. It's not like a genuine, authentic thing. Elizabeth Hawley, chronicler, like she chronicled the Himalayas. She died at 94. So she was a reporter who had lived in that region of the world and reported on people who like climbed the Himalayan mountains. And there's some Himalayan mountain that's really, is not Mount Rushmore. That's all I keep thinking. I'm so ignorant sometimes. Or I just don't know much about mountains. Kilimanjaro, is it Kilimanjaro over there? But, when people would do climbs, she would be the one who would report who had made records. She was like a detective, they say. Like when people would be like, yeah, I climbed the mountain in like 20 minutes. She'd ask a bunch of questions and debunk things. But anyway, she made her transition. She had created some type of database that she hadn't been running. And they don't know if it's going to continue to survive after she's made her transition. She hadn't been running it for like 6 months or 6 years or something, but she had done it for like 30 years or, so for the bulk of its existence, she's been the one person. So I don't know what the succession plan is. Like when she hasn't been running it, here recently, has someone else been running it, or it just ain't been being ran? Elizabeth Hawley, never heard of her. Tourists, but rest in peace, and, much peace to you and your family and community in the world and climbers and all of that. Tourists sexually assaulted in Senegal's Casamance region. So through my DNA family, I have family that we only know that we're family through DNA research. And we had a reunion last year in Dallas, Texas. We're having a reunion next year in Atlanta. And I'm advocating that we have a reunion within, every 2 years. So far, we're planning a reunion. But I'm advocating that we have one in Africa. And one of my cousins, who's like the main person, who's like the initiator of this whole DNA family get together type thing, he said that he wanted to go to, it wasn't Senegal, it was Ghana. But wherever he said he wanted to go, he had to go someplace else because of strife and drama and violence in that area. And when he said, yeah, he would fly into here and the tickets were too expensive, I Googled it and I saw that the place that and he was like, he would fly into this next country and then drive. I'm like, how you gonna be driving in a whole nother country? And you don't, that didn't sound safe to me, or I didn't understand that. I'm like, I don't think that's a good plan. And when I researched it, the reason he couldn't fly directly into, I think it wasn't Ghana. I can't remember what country it was, but it was in West Africa. The reason he couldn't fly directly into the country where most of his DNA is because of, there's been like a lot of strife and drama. So somehow when I saw this, I'm like, hey, isn't that the region? But now it makes me have to go back and Google. Have you had your DNA done? Do you know where your family is from? Are you from a part, like there's somebody that I watch, are you from a part of the world where you just like know where your family is from? You don't have to do DNA research. You know, like this is my family village. You know, like there's one woman that I watch on YouTube and she goes back to Nigeria every year and, for the holidays and to her family's village and all of this other stuff. Is that your situation? Are you like us Negroes out here? We be trying to piece stuff together and figure it out. But I'm sorry to hear about the tourists being sexually assaulted. I'm sorry to go off on that. But, so just, healing, spiritual, emotional, and physical healing to all of us and to them especially. China to develop Arctic shipping routes opened by global warming. So they're like, oh, global warming? Oh, the icebergs are melting? Oh, that means we can, instead of it taking 48 days from us to take our our goods from point A to point B, we can take our goods and services from point A to point B in 20 days. So yay, global warming. Let's get on top of this. They're not sitting around, oh, woe is us, global warming. They like, how can we take advantage of this? How can we use this to help us more firmly establish ourselves as a country, so I'm kind of like, dang, it seemed kind of brutal and like pragmatic to the like extreme. Like, don't you feel sad for the earth, China? But they like, nah, we about to develop these Arctic shipping routes. And that's like, I feel like that's really interesting because that's how there's like a ruthlessness to how some people move in the world. They're not really sentimental, and that just reminds me of that. They like, oh, you fell down and broke your foot. Good. That means that, I could use your shoe. Give me your shoe. And you be like, wait, my foot is broken. I fell down. They like, yeah, I don't care. France mourns star chef Paul Bocuse. I don't know who that is. I never even heard of him. But the imagery of that funeral was amazing. There was like the casket, and then there were like a couple of people in black around it. But then there was just like all of these people in chef whites, probably white men. But all you could see was the whites, the whites, the whites, the whites. And it was like very visually interesting to me. So rest in peace, Paul Bocuse, and your family and your community. And I guess if you into chefing or whatever and it means something to you and you feel like you experienced a loss, peace to you too. Dutch intelligence reportedly spied on Russia while it meddled in the U.S. election. Google is building a local news service that anyone can contribute to, and they're testing it out in 2 markets. My market wasn't one of them, but I thought that was interesting. Former Le Bernardine server sues restaurant for ignoring sexual harassment complaints. Don't these people just know how to ignore some stuff? Giving back, rapper Little John opens second school in Ghana. Little John is the one who's like, wow, yeah. There's a comedian, Dave Chappelle. Wasn't Dave Chappelle making fun, of Little John on his show? Like, it seemed like over I never watched the show when it was on, but it, like a couple weeks ago, it seemed like I was watching a few episodes. They were doing some marathon. And I'm like, I don't really know anything about Little John, except for I think he's the one that's like, wow, eh. I'm probably doing a terrible impression. But I'm like, his second school in Ghana? Go on, Little John, yay. I guess that's good. Virginia man shot 9 times at close range by police. Nursing professor instructed white students not to share exam notes with the blacks, students allege. Some people are really like bitter and petty that even though there has been this systemic over a long period of time trying to hold down black folks and black excellence, the black folks still be shining. And they like, don't tell it to the blacks. I mean, it's kind of like, if we're inferior, why you got to try to block us? If we so, don't share it with the blacks. Because, they just be out here, black excellence. It's real. Some people really understand. We don't understand. I think a lot of times we don't understand how much they understand. They can see how beautiful and powerful and dynamic we are, and we don't see ourselves like that. We don't. Yeah, that's like the in an abusive relationship, sometimes you get the impression that the man, usually the abuser, not all the time, is like, you ain't nothing, don't nobody want you, ain't nobody gonna want you but me, you lucky to have me, blah 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 blah. But that's not true. But he's trying to keep anybody, it's like it's a game, and then the woman has bought into his bull. Usually it's the woman has bought into his bull and just misses her beauty and her power and her majesty. So yeah, black excellence, that's all I say. Y'all can hate, you can try to hold us down. One of my girlfriends said when I was in high school, she was like, truth cut to the ground will rise again. If you look at the cracks in between the concrete, you try to shut out Mother Nature, and then the grass and nature start growing through the concrete. You can try to cut it down, but what's true is true, and what's real is real. And that's all there is to it. After Trump staffer deemed April Ryan Miss Piggy, folks began calling for her firing. Tamron Hall scores new deal with Investigation Discovery. I think from this article, she came from Investigation and she's going back. And Tamron used to be on CNBC and NBC. And then when they brought this, I think Megyn Kelly, this white woman who believes that Jesus is white and Santa Claus is white, and said it on the air in public, and she's trying to present herself as like, but anyway, when they brought her on, Tamron Hall left, and then she was working a deal. And I read this article where she was working a deal with this really famous producer guy, Harvey Weinstein, but this is before the whole Weinstein thing broke, and I didn't know who he was. And then we never heard about her again until just now. And I'm like, was she molested? I don't know. Writer posts message pointing out dangers of white women. Facebook deletes the post, then apologizes for mistake. They forever be making mistakes to take down progressive stuff, and they don't make that mistake when it comes to regressive stuff. They leave that stuff up forever. When black folks are getting harassed and demeaned, brown folks getting harassed and demeaned, they don't see nothing wrong with that. Let a black person say something progressive, they be like, it's a violation of our community standards, because their community standards is to demean and bring down black folks. I'm just saying, that's how, whatever you say, your actions tell the true story, right? You know people by their action. Disturbing video shows Sudanese migrants tortured for ransom in Libya. They torture the people, then they send the videos to the people, the people's people, and say, give us money. And these are people who are not well-to-do. That's terrible. It's some people in the world are really like, they got issues. They souls and spirits and minds and emotions, and it's just effed up. Like, just woo. Brilliant new plug-in corrects racially charged in articles and tweets to racist. So instead of saying, oh, that was a really racially charged speech that President Zero gave, this plug-in, I don't really understand technology, but I know plug-in is something technological. The plug-in will be like, that was a racist speech President Zero gave. And I'm here for it. I'm here. Let's call a thing a thing. Let's say what it is. It hurts people. High school plagued by racial incidents sees white colored signs at water fountains. See, here we could just say high school plagued by racism instead of racial incidents. In a cryptic letter, Airbnb CEO announces a new board member and that it's now an infinite company. Nutella riots spread across French supermarkets. I think they selling them real Nutella real cheap and the people are getting excited by it. I'm not a hazelnut person. I don't like Nutella. I don't like a lot of European chocolates use, and American too, but you see it more in like European. They use hazelnuts. I'm not a fan of the hazelnut. Edible bandages for bears' burnt paws. This is in California. They put the bandages on, but anyway. How Aung San Suu Kyi sees the Rohingya crisis. That's over in Myanmar. Emmy-winning Roots star Olivia Cole is dead at 75. Rest in peace, Mama Cole, Mama Olivia. KFC just revealed its first female Colonel Sanders. Why are black poor Americans more optimistic than white ones? It's that spirit. It's that black. I personally think that black folks are just like really, really amazing. I mean, if you look at all of the ways in which we have been historically, generationally torn down, harassed, demeaned, and still we rise. And still, I mean, it's just like, it's amazing to me that you have people who are halfway sane, let alone the brilliance and the beauty and the intelligence and the power and the optimism and it's just like, I'm just really amazed at black folks. Sri Lankan women take on body shaming barrel ad. It's an ad and it's like a picture of a barrel and it's like, women's bodies shouldn't look like this. And the people are like, excuse me, sir or ma'am? The heart of Paris is underwater and the images are a shocking reminder the city could be overdue for a historic flood. And that's it. We loop back around. Thank you so much for clicking on the video and sticking around for my notes on the news. I'm Angela. The channel is Be Fabulous You. If you are not a subscriber and you've stayed till the end, consider subscribing. Go ahead. If you are a subscriber, I appreciate you. I appreciate you if you're brand new to watching me. I appreciate you if you've been here since the beginning. Today is the best day ever. You are the greatest. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We're working on 1,000. So while we're working on 1,000, you know what I want you to do? I want you to be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. Bella got up. I thought she was going to get in the screen, the video vixen. She's standing up, but she's not getting in the camera. I guess because the camera's over here. But that's what I got. Today's best day ever. Peace.